हेलो। अच्छा अच्छा आसले मत कोई ताले हाँ हाँ ठीक ठीक आसले तुम करके दे ठीक है ओके ओके Okay, let's see. So is this slide visible? Anyone, please respond. Yes. Am I audible and this slide is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have seen up to till now how to monitor the progress of the project, different aspects we have seen. Also we have seen project review, etc. So today we'll see another important aspect of this monitoring the project or the software project management, that is known as configuration management. You will see, and we'll see first a little bit of change control. What is the need of change control? Then you will see software configuration management. What is the need for software configuration management? It's an important, very important aspect for practical purpose. Those who will work in software industry, very much important. This part is a little bit theoretical what I am taking, but tomorrow when we will take these different phases of software configuration management, that will be very much important. These are a little bit what advantages, disadvantages kind of things. You can read yourself. I will quickly just to summarize, and the details are in the book. The slides I will share. As these are very theoretical things, I will just quickly only highlight the important points. The rest you can see yourself. But tomorrow we'll discuss in detail about the different phases, how the software configuration management takes place, what are the tools available. Those things we'll discuss on tomorrow. Let's see what is change control. When you are using any document such as user requirements, you are developing the user requirements or testing manual, etc. There may be many different kinds of versions of the document as it undergoes cycles of development and review, because during the development process, it follows a cycle, different phases are followed. So the documents that you are developing, like user manual, test manual, software project management document, so there may be different versions because it undergoes cycles of development and review. Any change control process at this point will be very informal and flexible. So you should make your documents very much. Just 1 second, please. हाँ सर, हेलो. हाँ हाँ नमस्कार सर. हाँ 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 यस हाँ हाँ देखान दुकान लास्ट तारीख को एटा ही दिया हैतला. हाँ यस हाँ हाँ आउ तो टे कहंतु जे चोरी तांको मागी थिले सर. का थ्रू रे हाँ अच्छा यस हाँ ठीक अछि. ताल टिक अपन टिक पठे दियंतु हाते हाते दे दियंतु म तांको कहूची से कर देबे. हाँ हाँ ताको दे दियंतु को इंटरनल रे दे देबो. म तबे कह देबी तांको. ठीक है सर. कह दो देखे सब को. ठीक है सर. Yes, yes. Okay. Sorry, there was a phone call from director's office. So now let's say that. So what I'm saying that whenever you are preparing any document, you should not be very rigid. It should not be fixed. It should be flexible, so that any other point, whenever there's a requirement to change some of the features, to change some of the aspects, immediately, flexibly, you should incorporate those changes. So that's why I'm saying here, any change control process at this point, it will be very informal and it should be flexible. Any change you should be able to incorporate there. At some point of time, the final version will be created. So later on, at some point of time, the final version will be created. So this version will call as baseline version. And when you will prepare this final version or the baseline version, then you say that effectively that version is frozen. So what do you mean by the baseline products? Why they are used? The baseline products are the foundation for the development of further products. For instance, if you can see this interface design documents, the GUI documents, they may be developed from the baseline user requirements. Any change to the baseline document, it could have knock-on effects on other parts of the project. Please remember, because this is the baseline document. Based on that, you are developing further documents. So whenever there will be any change to the baseline version, obviously the other versions, the other components will be affected. You have to keep in mind, and accordingly, you have to see if you are changing the baseline version, the changes will be reflected at what places of what other documents you must note down or do. Otherwise, it will lead to inconsistency. In baseline version, some concept is there, some components. In other documents, they are not reflected the changes. Then it will lead to inconsistency. So that's why I'm saying that any changes to the baseline document, this could have knock-on effects on other parts of the project. So that's why for this reason, the subsequent changes to the baseline documents need to be stringently controlled. You have to make them consistent. Making change at one point should also reflect the changes. You should make the changes at the other point. So you have to control properly. For this reason, whenever you are making subsequent changes, the subsequent changes to the baseline documents, they need to be stringently controlled. What are the steps that have to be followed in change control procedure? So one or more users might perceive a need for a modification to a system, isn't it? You have developed support the initial user manual as the developer, but when you are giving to the designer, to the coder, or to the client, they may give some suggestions. They may say that please change these things. So that's why one or more users or one or more stakeholders might perceive a need for a modification to a system, and they may ask for a change request, which has to be passed to the development staff. The user management, they would consider the change request, and if the management agrees, okay, the suggested changes are fine, they are appropriate, then they approve it. If they approve it, then they pass it to the development management, and then the development management will incorporate the suggested changes. There is a single unauthorized channel for request for change. So this anybody else can make can request for change, but that should come through a proper channel. Only one person should be authorized to handle those changes. Otherwise, there will be chaos. There will be inconsistency. There is a single authorized channel for request for change between the client community and the management of the developers. So there would be some filtering mechanism within the client community to ensure that the proposed change, it does not genuinely provide a benefit before the RFC is generated. Okay, so there should be some filtering process. Otherwise, everybody will say that I require a change. So you must filter them. There would be some filtering mechanism within the client community to ensure that the proposed change, the suggested change, it does genuinely provide a benefit before the RFC generated. It gives some benefit, it gives some advantage. Otherwise, no point. There is no point in going for making the changes. Right. There would be one person within development area. See what I have already told you. Normally, there can be from the client side, there can be one person, or there can be the team who will filter and then pass on the approved changes. In the client side, there should be also one person who should do all those, who should incorporate the changes. That's what I'm saying here. That there would be only one person within the development area who would receive all the RFCs, request for changes, and he will process the RFCs. They would delegate a member to look at the request. See, it's not that whenever any request for change comes, it will be immediately accepted. The team will investigate it. They would delegate a member to look at the request and to report on the practicality and cost of carrying out the change. Very often, if a change is required, it will require some cost because some other components will be modified. So how much cost does it require? Is it beneficial? Will the client be pay these changes or the additional things effort that will require for making the changes? Will the client pay it? All those aspects the development team will investigate. So they would delegate a member to look at the request submitted by the client for change and then to report on the practicality of making the changes and the cost of carrying out the changes. The developer would assess the products that will be affected by the change. So not only this particular document, by this change, this user manual or the testing manual or the SRS document if you are changing. And you know, if SRS document is changed, subsequently all the design documents, coding, testing, everything will be changed. So the developer would assess what the further products that will be affected by the change. That also they will look into account. Then if they are satisfied, they see that it is genuine, then only it is doable, it is practicable, then only they will consider for incorporating the changes. The development representative would report back to the user manual on the findings and the user manual management. Then they would decide whether in view of the cost quoted they wish to go ahead or not. So when the development team, they will investigate, they will say that okay, these are practical, they are doable, but another 1 crore rupees is required for making these changes because other subsequent parts will be affected. So original budgeted cost was 10 crores. Now another 1 crore will be required for making those changes. So they will inform to the client, see, we are ready to incorporate all the changes suggested by you, but this will cost another 1 crore. So now it is up to the client whether they are agreed to pay for this 1 crore or not. If they will agree, then the development team will go for the changes, otherwise not. There would be some individual or a group of members, maybe the project board or the steering committee, who represented the major stakeholders, both users and developers, and also the project sponsor, who would have the authority to prioritize the RFCs for action. Now the next step is, a further step is to give the project managers allowances that would allow them accept minor changes. So you have to give somewhat allowances, otherwise why they will go for making the changes once everything is finalized. So a further step is to give the project managers some allowances that would allow them to accept these minor changes, okay, as long as they are documented with an RFC, etc., and as long as they do not exceed the planned cost and delivery target. So the total cost, if it is not exceeding, but some allowances you have to give to the project managers, then they may accept to do the changes. Okay, so a large number of small changes could have a serious effect on a project progress, which may call for the attention of higher management. If like that, about 10 changes come, even if they are very tiny, they are very small, but it will definitely affect the progress of the project, and sometimes the project may be delayed significantly. So a very large set of changes might trigger the project manager to produce an exception report. So if you are deviating from your schedule, you are deviating from your target, then you have to prepare an exception report for the large set of changes, and you have to give it to the client for their acceptance. Okay, so once the RFC has been approved for action, then one or more developers, they are authorized to take copies of the master products that are to be modified. See, here I am highlighting not the master product. So what is the master product? It has to be kept with the project manager. A copy of the master product may be given to whom? Maybe one or more of the authorized developers. Then any change they will make on this copy, not on the original master product, because if the changes are faulty or some something happens, then the whole product, maybe it is a live product, that may be disturbed. So that's why any change, first it has to be done on the copy of the master product, then it will be approved by the steering committee or the change control committee, then only it can be replaced, otherwise it will be rejected. So that's why I'm saying, once an RFC has been approved for action, one or more developers are authorized to take the copies of the master products that are to be modified, not the actual or the original master products, this would need to be done through the configuration librarian. So every what software industry normally they are having a, just like as we are having what books library. So similarly for softwares, for the versions, they appoint a person called as configuration librarian. So this process would need to be done through the configuration librarian. Then once you are handing over the copies of the master products to the person, then they will do the changes, and after the modification, the copies are now modified. After the modification, in the case of software components, this would involve modifying the code and recompiling and testing it. So the document, maybe the SRS document is modified. After that, various components such as you have to modify the design document, you have to modify the code, and again you have to run the code, recompile and run the code, and you have to test it. Then the complete process will be over, and the changes can be reflected at the subsequent components or subsequent parts. When the development of new versions of the product has been completed, then what will happen? The user management will be notified. Okay, the user management, they will be notified, yes, the changes we have made, and the copies of the software will be released for user acceptance testing. Then the changed, the modified copies of the software that will be released to the users for user acceptance testing. Now user has to either accept or reject the changes. When the user is satisfied that the products are adequate, the changes are proper, then they will authorize their operational release. The master copies of the configuration items will be replaced. Now, I have already told you earlier that all the changes are made with this copies of the master product. Now this will go all those steps. If all those steps are okay, they are fine. Then the master copies of the configuration item, then only that will be replaced, and this new version, the changed version will occupy, it will be in place. Okay. These are quite easy. You please read yourself. What are the duties of configuration librarian, configuration manager, or the project librarian? So those are quite easy. No need to explain. You please read yourself. Like identification of all items that need to be subject to change control. What items will be subject to change control? Only SRS document, or DFDs, or UML diagrams, or code, or test documents, etc. So what items will undergo what the change control? Somebody has to identify. Who has to identify? The librarian, the configuration librarian has to identify. Like this. These are all easy things. I am skipping those things. Otherwise, you will feel boring. So you please read yourself. Similarly, just whatever I have explained the change control process, I am just quickly summarizing them. First step is one or more users might perceive the need for a change. Then the user management, he has to decide that the suggested change is valid and it is worthwhile, it is beneficial, and then they pass it to the development management. Then a developer is assigned. Okay, so when it is found that okay, the change is valid and it is worthwhile, it is beneficial, then the next step is the following. A developer is assigned to assess the practicality and the cost of making the change. From the development management, one developer will given this responsibility of so whether this is doable or not, practical or not, and what will the cost involved in making the change. Then the development management will report back to the user management on the cost of the change, and user management decides whether to go ahead based on the cost of the change, this additional cost, or they will not go for this change. So the user management has to decide. Once the user management is agreed, then one or more developers, they will be authorized to make copies of the components to be modified. Then those the copies of this master, copies of the master documents, they are modified. And after initial testing, a test version might be released to the user management for acceptance testing. When the users are satisfied, then the operational release is authorized and the master configuration items are updated. With what? With the change version. Then the master configuration is replaced. Okay. Then the master configuration items, they are replaced with the changed versions. Okay. When users are satisfied, the operational release is authorized. The master configuration items are updated. Okay, this thing I have already told you through this, and in these two slides I have summarized what are the steps followed for the typical change control process. So now we should go for this other item, that is the software configuration management. It's very, very important from industrial point of view. The changes in a project can take place in any of the work products. I have already told you. The changes you might require in the SRS document, DFD, GML diagrams, code, test plans, everywhere else. So changes in a project can take place in any of the work products. And why a change may require? Several reasons. I am giving some of the examples here. The changes may be required due to many reasons, such as due to bug fix, due to changes on account of work simplification, efficiency considerations, etc. Previously, you are having using a complex method. Now you want to replace with a simplified method. Then you have to change this documents, the processes. So these are some of the examples why a change might be required. Change management can be done manually by a designated configuration librarian. It is possible you can do manually, but let's see what is the limitation of this manually or manual change management. But however, the manual change management process gets overwhelmed when we consider changes taking place in all work products. So when you are making the change almost in all work products, almost in all the components, then it will be quite difficult, it will be complex. When there are multiple variants of the product, so only one variant, two variant, okay. But when there are 10 variants of the product, making the change management manually is quite difficult. So these are some of the drawbacks of manual change management. In this situation, a systematic software configuration management process with the appropriate tool support needs to be deployed. So you have to automate it, and this can be automated with the appropriate tool support. Software configuration management is concerned with what? What do you mean by software configuration management? So software configuration management is concerned with tracking and controlling the changes to a software. Okay, so this is concerned with tracking and controlling changes to a software. When you are making the change, how to track, how to control. Otherwise, if everybody will make changes, then the whole software will go. It will be totally inconsistent. That permission should not be given to all. So software configuration management is concerned with tracking and controlling the different changes made to a software. In any systematic development and maintenance environment, various work products are there. Those work products could be, I have already told you, could be SRS document, design documents such as DFD and UML diagrams, code, test documents, etc. Various work products such as code, design document, test documents, etc. associated with software, they continually change during the development phase as well as in the maintenance phase. So in a team development environment, each member of the development or maintenance team, they would be assigned to handle some modification request, isn't it? So when you are developing a software in a team development environment, every member of the development team or the maintenance team, they would be assigned to handle some modification request. Therefore, every work product would have to be assessed and modified by several members, isn't it? You are developing the work product, but there is a necessity that it should be assessed by some other members. This should be required any modification by some other members, and you cannot deny that has to be accepted. But how to do? If you are developing and simultaneously another person is modifying, then it will lead to inconsistency. How to handle this problem? So therefore, every work product have to be assessed and modified by several members. In such a situation, unless you are using a proper configuration management system, okay. In such a situation, unless a proper configuration management system deployed, then several problems can appear. Let's quickly look at some of the problems which might appear if you are not using a proper configuration management system. So before going to that, let's quickly first see the configuration. What is configuration management? Then you will see what problems you will face if you are not using a proper configuration management system. The setup activities through which the configuration items are managed and maintained, we call them as configuration management. Okay, so configuration management is the setup activities through which the configuration items are managed and they are maintained as the project undergoes its life cycle phases. We call it as configuration management. So what could be the configuration items? As I have already told you, the items such as requirement specification document, design document, codes, testing documents or test plans. All those things can be subjected to. They will be coming under configuration items. So the setup activities that you will require to the setup activities through which these configuration items they are managed and maintained during the life cycle phases as the product undergoes its life cycle phases. That setup activities is called as configuration management process. So now let's see context in which configuration management is necessary. When configuration management is necessary, this already we have seen earlier, like during the development phase, the work products get modified as development activities are carried out, isn't it? You are developing. This is not a static phase. Continuously changing. So during the development phase, the different work products they may get modified as the development activities are carried out. Not only during the development phase, but also during the maintenance phase. Also, some of the work products they get changed. During the maintenance phase, the work products change due to various types of enhancements and adaptations that are carried out, including bug fixes. Okay, so during the maintenance phase, products they change due to various types of enhancements you are making and adaptations that are carried out, including the bug fixes. You know the different maintenance activities, different types of maintenance: corrective maintenance, adaptive maintenance, and perfective maintenance. So those definitions will not get into detail. So during these maintenance phases also, some of the work products might require change. Thus, the state of the work products continually change. So the different work products, their state is not static, it is not fixed. Thus, the state of the work products continually change when both during the development phase as well as during the maintenance phase. The state of, so now let's see what we will define what do we mean by configuration. The state of all work products at any point of time is called the configuration of the software product. Okay, so one work product, so a software might require many work products. The state of all work products at a particular point of time, at any point of time, is called the configuration of the software product. And what is software configuration management? Software configuration management, it deals with effectively tracking and controlling the configuration of the software product during its entire life cycle. This definition I have already also defined in the previous slides. So here I am defining again. First, we have defined what is configuration. It is the state of all work products at any point of time. So the state of all work products at any point of time is called the configuration of the software product. Then what is software configuration management? Software configuration management is a process which deals with effectively tracking and controlling the configuration of a software product when during its entire life cycle. During the software development as well as the software maintenance. So this we have already seen the definition of configuration and definition of software configuration management. Now let's see, I have already told you what is the problem of manual. This software configuration management can be done also manually, but several drawbacks I have already told you. Other drawbacks you can see from the book or from internet. So we need a automated tool. We have to automate it. We should use a automated tool for configuration management. For effective configuration management, it is necessary to deploy a configuration management tool. We should use an automated configuration management tool. There are many configuration management tools are available. Some of them are open software, and some of them are commercial tools. Configuration management practices include two important things: version control and establishment of baselines. Please say, confusion management practices, they include two important components: version control and the establishment of baselines. The confusion definition I have already told you earlier. This is just a repetition. The confusion of a software is the state of various work products that are under confusion control. The work products that are under confusion control are items. This also I have defined earlier. Confusion items, since the set of items, the set of work products under confusion control. The work products that are under confusion control are usually referred to as the confusion items. It is convenient to think of a confusion as a set of files representing various work products. There is a similarity. You can consider the confusion as a set of files also. Okay. It is very much convenient to think of a confusion as what? As a set of files which represent various work products. For example, we can consider the following. The configuration of a sample software product, it is shown in the next figure. Okay. The configuration of a sample software product shown in next figure consists of what? Several confusion items. What are the confusion items? The confusion items or the work products are W1, W2, Wn, etc. Okay, just see. So this is a software product. There are different components: W1, W2, like Wn. So for example, the configuration of a sample software product, which is shown in next figure, it consists of the configuration items or work products. What are the configuration items? W1, W2 up to Wn. So these W1, W2, Wn, these are the work products. Okay. And this figure I will explain while discussing how we achieve confusion management. How do we perform confusion management? Then I will explain this figure. So before going to confusion management, let's first discuss about what is a version, because change management or confusion management is very much dependent on the versions. They involve the term version. What was the original version? What is the next version? Or what is version 1? What is version 2? Like that. So let's have very often people confuse on this version. Let's see the definition and the concepts associated with the version. Version as development and maintenance activities are carried out on a software product, then its configuration keeps on changing. That is, one or more configuration items, they keep on changing. It often becomes very much necessary to refer to the configuration that existed at certain point of time. See, today it is suppose one version, or it is the state of the item or something. We can give say state 1 or state 2 like this. After 1 month that state is changed. Again after 1 month the state is changed. But later on, when you are in the 8th month, suppose you want to again refer to the first version that was developed in the first month. How to go back? You have to keep all the versions there. The changes can be kept additionally. Otherwise, if you don't keep this first version, the base version, later on when you require to refer it, you cannot get it. So that's why it is required to save all the versions, all the states of a software product. Whenever you are making a change, the previous version you should not remove. It should be there. Only the changes may be saved as additional files also, additional documents. So in that way, whenever it is required to find the state of a product, the version of a product at any time, you can easily find. Okay, so that's why you should save the states at different times. Periodically you should save and you should number them. You should properly number them so that you can easily track them. It often becomes very much necessary to refer to the configuration that existed at a certain point of time. For example, we can say that refer to last week's configuration of the software. What are the configuration in the last week? You want to refer it. So if you have not saved, if you have not properly numbered them, then if you have not properly numbered them, you will find difficulty in referring to the last week's configuration. Therefore, a version, how will define? Therefore, a version is a configuration That existed when? That existed at certain point of time. So version means it is a configuration that existed at certain point of time. More technically, if you speak, versioning is a numbering scheme. So versioning is what? Versioning is a numbering scheme that helps us identify a specific configuration at a certain point of time. So it is a numbering scheme which will help you in identifying a specific configuration at a certain point of time, at a specific point in time, at a specific point of time. Okay. So more technically speaking, versioning is a numbering scheme that helps us identify a specific configuration at a certain point in time. How this can be achieved? How versioning can be achieved? This is achieved by a configuration tool by tagging the files representing the configuration items with the version name. So we have to use a tool and then we can tag the files representing the different configuration items with the version name. This is achieved by a configuration tool by tagging the files representing the configuration items with the version name. As a software is released and it is used by different customers, then obviously some errors will be discovered, errors are discovered, then enhancements to the functionalities might be needed. So time to time, your functionalities are enhancing, they are changing, so enhancements to the functionalities might be needed. A new release of the software may be required. A new release of the software. What do you mean by a new release of a software? A new release of the software is an improved system intended to replace an old one. Currently, you are using version 1 and you have made some enhancements. You have improved the functionalities. So after these enhancements you have made, you have updated your software. So now that version or that component has to be replaced with the old one. So then we call this new version as the new release. So a new release of the software, it is defined as an improved system which is intended to replace an old one. Usually a product is described as version M and release N. So whenever you are saying a product and there are different versions and releases, how do you number them? So usually a product is described as which version and which release. It is described as version M and release N. Or in what symbolically you can write version M.N. Suppose you have written version, a software is described as version 1.2. So what does it mean? That means this software is of version 1 and release 2. It is the first version and the second release of the software. So usually a product is described as version and release, like version M.N, where M represents the version and N represents the release. Usually product is described as version M and release N, or as simply or notationally as version M.N. Now let's quickly look at what do you mean by revision. That is also sometimes it is required. In industry, they refer to different versions and revision. So what do you mean by revision? A revision system, I have already told you that it is a numbering scheme that is used to identify the state of the configuration item at any time. Each time a work product is updated, its state changes. I have already told you that. Thus, we can think of a work product going through a series of updates till it reaches a desired state. So before it reaches a desired state, it moves through a series of updates. The successive states of a work product are its successive revisions. So when you will consider the successive states of a particular work product, we call these are the successive revisions. The successive states of a work product are called as successive revisions. So the revisions means the successive states, the subsequent states of your product, they are called its successive revisions. Thus, each time a configuration item is updated, a new revision gets performed. Okay, so whenever a confusion item is updated, a new revision gets formed. Thus, each time a confusion item is updated, a new revision gets formed. Then you see, it becomes very much possible to refer to a specific state of a work product by using its revision number. How you can refer to a specific state of a particular work product? You can do so by using what is its revision number. It becomes possible to refer to a specific state of a work product by using its revision number. Now again we'll come to this baseline, which I have already told you. A baseline is a software configuration that has been formally reviewed and agreed upon and serves as the basis for further development. So you have to, once upon a time, you have to freeze the requirements or freeze this your description. A baseline is a software configuration which has been formally reviewed and agreed upon by the development team as well as the users, and it serves as a basis for further development. What is a variant? That is also required while you are developing a software. Variants are the different versions that are intended to coexist. Simultaneously, two versions will exist. If that is the case, then we call them the variants. Variants are the versions that are intended to coexist. You take the example of, you are using the MS Word for preparing a Word document. Those who have known LaTeX for preparing Word documents, there's another software called as LaTeX. It will say it is having two variants, one for Windows systems, another for Unix or Linux systems. The Unix or the Linux systems, what will use, the variant is called as LaTeX. And the window, and if you are using a Windows system, that variant is called as MikTeX. So for the same word processing package, there are two variants, one for the Windows version and another for the Unix or the Linux versions. Different variants may be needed to run the software on different operating systems or on different hardware platforms. This I have just explained. If you want to use the same software but in different operating systems, you might require different variants. If you require different hardware platforms, then also you might require different variants. For example, one variant of a mathematical computation package, it might run on Unix-based machines, and another may run on Microsoft Windows machines, and another on Solaris, like that. So for the same package, you are here using three variants: one for Unix-based machines, one for Microsoft Windows-based machines, and another for Solaris-based machines. Okay. So these are easy things. You just please read yourself regarding variants. Now we'll come to the purpose of SCM. Why software configuration management is required? What are the advantages? The context in which you will require SCM. Then we'll go the actual process. Some of the objectives, some of the purposes of using software configuration management. First one is problems associated with the concurrent access. So if simultaneously more than one person is trying to use this software, or more than one person, they try to access this software and modify something. So this is known as concurrent access, and whenever there will be concurrent access, it may lead to inconsistency. You have already seen the problems of concurrent access in databases. Same problem also you will get here. So that can be avoided by using SCM. Undoing changes. If you want to you have made some changes, but you want to undo it. But if you are multiple users are doing this, very much difficult to undo. It will lead to inconsistency. So that's why proper methodology should be followed. Only one person should give this chance, this privilege to make any changes. So that can be done through software code management. So undoing changes. Then system accounting. If you want to keep track of the system accounting, if you want to keep track of the system accounting status also, this software control management, software configuration management will be very much useful. Next point is handling variants and helping fix bugs in them. I have already told you what is variants, what is the nature of variants. So if you want to handle the variants and help fix bugs in them, then also is required. Okay. Then accurate determination of project status. At what point of time you are now? What is the status of your project? If multiple persons are doing the changes, you cannot say what is the actual status. But if you are using software, confusion management, you know what is the actual status because one person is responsible for making a change. So accurate determination of project status can be accurate determination of the project status can be obtained if you are using software confusion management. Similarly, preventing unauthorized access to the work products. Anybody else get access to the product and make any changes? You have to take permission. So in that way, only one person can be given permission to make the changes. So only authorized person can be given permission to access the work product and make the changes. So in this way, by using software confusion management, we can prevent the unauthorized access to the work products. So these are some of the purposes of using software confusion management. So these important points I have explained further in the later slides. Please read those things yourself. These are easy things. So I have already told these things. So no need to again discuss those things. You please read yourself. So today we have discussed the need of change control. Now we have also discussed the change control procedure. We have explained the concept of software configuration management, the context in which it is necessary and its purpose. The advantages, please read yourself. So this is something about fundamentals of software configuration management. Next class we will discuss in detail what are the activities they are carried out, what are the steps they are carried out in software configuration management. So we have basically taken from these two books, the software project management book and this software engineering book. So please have a read these fundamental things today itself so that you will understand better tomorrow how the software configuration management activities are carried out. All right. Thank you very much. Now, any doubt, please, because these are a little bit easy things. So only your understanding is required. Please read. Any doubt, please ask me. These all are available in the book and the slide I will upload now. I hope your doubts should not come. So tomorrow we'll see the rest of the things. Please, whatever you have discussed today, please read those things today so that tomorrow we'll discuss the actual activities. Those are involved in the software configuration management process.